morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Big country, good horses, manageable cattle, and still sometimes a cowboy heads out to do a job and comes up empty.
Yeah, there's definitely days you get skunked, but at least you know where they're not. If you're rounding up.
Yeah, at least you know where they're not. That's working cowboy Steve Roberts, who has ridden broncs, doctored cattle, and done a cowboy's job for many years. And we'll share some experiences today. And a very interesting rangeland news this week. Here's a couple of items you'll hear about.
More people wanting to have flocks of 2 to 10 chickens in their backyards for fresh eggs.
And a lot of them don't have any livestock background.
What do the 2016 presidential candidates know about agriculture?
And Baxter Black looks at something a lot of us can remember when you have teenage kids and they just got their driver's license and they can drive themselves to the high school rodeo.
What happened to the trailer? Which trailer? The one you took to the rodeo yesterday. You mean the gray 2-horse trailer? Yeah, the one with the big dent and the tail light smashed.
I've seen some cowboys unload their horse, jump into the saddle, and spur into a gallop before the cows get away, and that leads to the subject of how important is it to warm up your horse when you start to ride on this week's Horse Training File. And I'll pull out one of my favorite pieces of cowboy poetry written by Jesse Colt. And with reference to the question, how much do the U.S. election candidates know about agriculture? Here's one that knows a lot about it. He raises longhorn cattle in Texas. This is the Red Hot Rhythm Rustlers and their hit song, Don Edwards for President.
I met him at a rodeo in Prescott. He was leaning on a homemade crutch he'd found. His leg was in a cast from a ride that didn't last. 2 seconds before his body hit the ground. I said, it looks as if you ran into a bad one. He looked at me as if I'd lost my mind. He said, what was your first clue? As he offered me a chew. Said, suit yourself, when I told him I'd decline. He said, to tell the truth before I'm dead, I ought to quit. I'm 42, but I'm looking like I'm 66. But what keeps me climbing on are those good old cowboy songs. If you think I'm a little crazy, that's a compliment. So play some Murphy, play R.W., play some Pioneers. That kind of music's made for this old cowboy's ear. I'm a little broke and bent, but those songs are heaven sent. And I'd vote for Don Edwards for president. Well, I told him that I'd better be a moseying, and that I hoped someday our trails would cross again. He said, see you later, pard, keep playing that guitar. You never know when some old cowboy might be listening. I watched him hobble over to his pickup truck, moving like molasses on that homemade crutch. He climbed in on his own, but man, you should have heard him groan. Too proud to ask somebody if they'd help him up. He said, to tell the truth before I'm dead, I ought to quit. I'm 42, but I'm feeling like I'm 96. But what keeps me climbing on are those good old cowboy songs. If you think I'm a little crazy, that's a compliment. So play some Murphy, play R.W., play some Pioneers. That kind of music's made for this old cowboy's ears. I'm a little broke and bent, but those songs are heaven sent. And I'd vote for Don Edwards for president. So play some Murphy, play R.W., play some Pioneers. That kind of music's made for this old cowboy's ears. I'm a little broke and bent, but those songs are heaven sent. And I'd vote for Don Edwards for president. Yeah, I'm a little broke and bent, but those songs are heaven sent. And I'd vote for Don Edwards for president.
And you betcha we'll have a Don Edwards song a little later. It'll be Don Edwards singing an Ian Tyson composition. I just watched Workin' Cowboy Steve Roberts make a great bronc ride at a ranch rodeo, and I had this question. You ever had any ranch horses that were tougher to ride than rodeo broncs?
Oh yeah, actually I've had more trouble with them than I ever did any in the arena.
Is that?
I've never really had any wrecks in arena, but out in ranch horses are different. They're, you know, you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
Is the worst thing, and you're usually lots of obstacles, trees and such.
You ever get yourself kind of banged up in one of those situations?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think just about everybody has, I think. But not really in the arena, like I say. Just.
Can you tell me about a specific situation somewhere, or?
Oh, one time at Stump Lake Ranch, Dwayne Twan and I were turning out, and I kind of had a bronc anyway, and we were turning out some cows, and the saddles back cinch slid just back enough to kind of half flank them, and he was a bad horse. He was the kind that if he could get you off, he'd try and kick you too, and he did that, and that was probably the worst one I was ever in, get kicked while you're coming off, and he got, that horse went, they sold him as a bucking horse, and I watched him, and he tried that. One guy, I saw him buck the guy off right on a calf shoot, and he tried to kick him. He didn't get him, but he tried to.
The guy didn't have
they had it in his blood. That was kind of a mean horse.
Yeah. Had he been a working ranch horse for some time?
Oh yeah, he was actually a good ranch horse.
Once he got going.
Yeah, but you know, just every once in a while, he could really fire, and it, you know, it's not. They got rid of him, and you can't really afford have, you know, even though they're good. You know, if they're going to hurt guys.
That's for sure.
You know.
Yeah. So there you were, and you probably knew on this morning that he was probably going to buck, and you were probably as ready as you could be, and it's still, did you stay with him very long before he got you off, or did he do something unexpected?
He about 3 jumped me, and we were heading towards a barbed wire fence, and he turned back at the fence. I thought we were going to go through it.
Oh, man.
But he turned back at the fence, and as I was going, he kicked me, but
where'd he get you?
In the stomach area. Ooh. But I just took the back cinch off, and we finished the day anyway, and then I went to get repaired.
So you finished the day on that same horse?
Yeah. Well, didn't have much choice. There was nothing else around.
What was the extent of the diagnosis when you went to get checked out?
I was off for a couple months.
Really?
Well, I guess not quite that long, month and a half. Just internal stuff, I guess.
It must have been a pretty painful day, the rest of it.
Yeah, well, not really, no. I just thought I better go, and good thing I went to the doctor at the end of the day, I guess.
Well, there's more from Steve Roberts and a song that really gets to the heart of cowboy life from Jay Parson when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. I really enjoy visiting with folks who do their daily, everyday work from the back of a horse. And, you know, there are more young working cowboys doing this than you might think. They are professionals in every sense except for what they get paid. But most of them feel the rewards of the job more than make up for the lack of money. Steve Roberts is a fine example of a highly skilled top hand. You take colts in to ride, or horses in to ride too?
The odd, maybe 1 or 2 a year, but I usually have 1 or 2 of my own too. So it's, if someone really asks me, I'll take one in, but usually it's no trouble finding one if you want one.
Yeah. So you do get to spend on a day-to-day basis lots of time riding then?
Yeah, seasonal, like you know, branding and turnout's a busy time, and then the haying, you're usually haying, and then round up again, you're busy, back to being busy, and then winter's slow again, but you know, it's for me it's seasonal because the spring and fall. I summer ride too, but it's not as much.
To me, that sounds like it would be pretty enjoyable because you get to see a lot of different country and different outfits and different cattle and different ways of doing things. And I had always thought that, if a guy could day work like that, it would sort of broaden your horizons a bit and be pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah, from working on the bigger outfits, once you're small, when you're working for the bigger outfits, you kind of wish of having your own cows in a small place, and once you have it, then you kind of think it wasn't so bad.
On the big, I know.
Getting a steady paycheck and that.
Yeah.
So the grass is always greener, it seems.
I guess you get to ride for some big outfits and probably some smaller family size 150 cow outfits too, I guess.
Yeah, mainly. About 100 headed outfit would be a smaller one. And just the odd help them turn out or something, or get in a cow for them in the fall. But there's one neighbor, he has about 400 head. I do all his summer riding and turn out and round up for him, and some bigger ranches like out at the river, Risky Creek at the River Ranch, and help them turn out and help some other bigger ones brand and that. And actually, I've branded more cattle this spring than I have for a long time, just from going.
Well, we'll get back to Steve shortly. A couple of years ago, at the invitation of Martin Black, we attended the second Horseman's Reunion in Paso Robles, California. In fact, that's where Billy and I celebrated our 50th anniversary, watching 4 days of colt starting. And it was there that I met this guy, rancher, horseman, and great songwriter from Bakersfield, Jay Parson.
Morning chill surrounds him as he rides into the breeze, heading out to meet another day. Through the shallows of the river and the shadows of the trees, he's quiet as he moves along his way. His eyes are a reflection of the times that he has seen, a window to the secrets of his soul. And his greatest joy is living the life that he has chose, and the quiet tune he sings is soft and low. It's a song of the last real cowboy, the last of a fast dying breed. Hats off to the last real cowboy, and long may your spirit be free. He was just a young boy when the West was growing on, but he rode the trails, learned the ways of old. And he came to ride the rank ones and read the cattle right, and live the song that tells us of his life. Now his days are getting shorter, his trailer's near the road, and he looks back at the life he lives so well, and he wonders who among us will choose to learn the tune, sing the song he taught us all to tell. It's a song of the last real cowboy, last of a fast dying breed. Hats off to the last real cowboy, long may your spirit be free. It's a song of the last real cowboy, the last of a fast dying breed. Hats off to the last real cowboy, long may your spirit be free. Long may your spirit be free. Long may your spirit
And now, back to that conversation with working cowboy and rancher Steve Roberts.
You get calls from neighbors and different people from time to time saying, I got a heifer that's really lame and I got to get her caught and treated, and I don't know how I can get there. Do you take on those kind of jobs?
Yeah, there's the odd one like that. I think I've done 2 like that this year, one that needed doctored and one bringing a bull that was out with the wrong cows kind of thing, you know. And that.
You ever get out in one of those assignments and everything goes wrong and you can't get it done? I know I sure have.
Yeah. Oh, I guess, yeah, it always happens. Nothing too lately, I guess. I've had good luck the last couple of years, I guess. Usually get something done, even even when you're rounding up, even if you get one animal in the fall, you've still done something.
The day's worthwhile, yeah. I had the odd day where I gone out and nothing got done.
Oh, yeah, there's days.
In fact, sometimes I made it a little worse than it was before I started.
Yeah, there's definitely days you get skunked, but at least you know where they're not if you're rounding up.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to remember now. Well, I know where they're not.
Yeah.
I went out the other day to just move a bunch of cows for a fella up in the permit, and nothing got to where I wanted it at all. I was totally by myself, and it was getting to be about 9 or 10 in the morning in the heat. I only had about 25 cows, or just enough that it was a little awkward by yourself, but you could probably do it. And they beat me to every logging trail that they weren't supposed to go on. So, it was fun.
Still more to come from Steve Roberts, and next, Baxter Black has something many of us have been through. When your teenage kids get their driver's license and you let them take the truck and the horse trailer to the next high school rodeo. Fine song from one of our favorite cowboy singers, then the Rangeland News, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at Rodeo Kids. What holds the loaded 30,000-pound trailer to the heavy-duty truck? What holds the 38-foot RV trailer to the dually? What holds the 2-horse trailer with your daughter's favorite pony to the half-ton pickup? Well, the odds are it's a B&W trailer hitch, probably a turnover bowl, American-made, employee-owned, customer-tuned, and proud of their part in America's greatness. B&W, holding things together down the road. If you ever find yourself feeling sorry for Job's mother, visit with the parents of rodeo teenagers. This is a conversation takes place between Dad and the kids at breakfast. Morning, boys. I see you got back okay. What happened to the trailer? What happened to the trailer? Which trailer? The one you took to the rodeo yesterday. You mean the gray 2-horse trailer? Yeah, the one with the big dent and the tail light smashed. Oh, that one. I was backing it up, that's all. And? Well, no, nobody told me that truck was right behind. Well, did you look? Mom was standing right there. Well, what about the truck you hit? He never said anything. He never said a word. Did you tell him? Who? The owner of the truck you hit. I don't even know who it was. You mean you backed into somebody and you didn't tell them? It was one of those low bumper hitches on a 1-ton flatbed. You couldn't tell. Pass the syrup. Sis did real good in the goat tying. Really? Yeah, real good. 12 seconds or 16, something like that. Except her goat got loose. Well, how'd you all do in the team roping? No good. Well, how many teams? 17. When did you rope? Last. What time did you have to beat? 26-3. Well, what happened? Well, Danny headed him good, right out of the box, and we could have had a 5-second run, but I missed. Yeah? Could have built a second loop and caught him in 10. And? I missed again. I see. Where you going? Out. What are you going to do? Nothing. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by B&W Turnover Bowl.
Join us Labor Day weekend for the 67th annual North Thompson Fall Fair and Rodeo in Barrier, BC, September 3rd to 5th. The Laughing Logger Lumberjack Show, Chainsaw Carving Competition, the BCRA Rodeo, Pony Chariot and Chuck Wagon Racing and Entertainment Stage, and livestock competitions, outdoor and indoor entertainment, and so much more. Be sure and join us for the Cowboy Concert Sunday evening, and you can get all the details at fallfair-rodeo.com. Well, just ahead of the Rangeland News, you folks up in the Peace Country will have a chance to get in on a great evening of entertainment on the 14th of September. It's live from the living room of the North Peace Cultural Center, starts at 8 o'clock, featuring Tom Cole and friends, including Sheldon Ball, Megan McKenzie, and a pretty decent guitar player by the name of Jim McLennan, probably showing off his brand new River Song guitar. And that's a good excuse to play a Tom Cole song.
Now, if you had the power and you put it to your mind, would you step into the past to see what you could find? You'd come across a campfire deep into the night, and you'd see an old cowboy staring in the firelight. He's holding a picture of a girl from long ago. He's reminded of her beauty and how he loved her so. And once he used to court her back in 29, but many logs of driftwood have went down the river of time. Now the fire has burned the coals and the flames begin to die, and the old man still holds a pitcher with a tear in one eye. Then morning starts to break and the sun begins to rise. He packs his faithful pony and heads up the mountainside. He's holding a picture of a girl from long ago. He's reminded of her beauty and how he loved her so. And once he used to court her back in 29, but many logs of driftwood have went down the river of time. Now, if you had the power and you put it to your mind, would you step into the past to see what you could find?
Now the news of the Rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West. We'll tell you what's new under the western sky right after this word from the cattlemen of Western Canada.
Nothing says summer like a steak on your barbecue. To get the most out of your ranch-raised beef, keep uncooked meat cold, use a meat thermometer, and thoroughly clean all kitchen surfaces. BC ranchers want you to have your best beef experience this summer. From the pasture to your plate, food safety is everyone's responsibility.
Now, the Rangeland News, top of page 1. Some city governments have debated for what seems endless hours over bylaws to allow city dwellers to have backyard chicken flocks. Sounds kind of idealistic, but like most livestock operations, there is a steep learning curve for the wannabes and some serious consequences. With more on that, here's Gary Crawford.
It's a pretty widespread series of human salmonella outbreaks traced to backyard poultry flocks so far this summer.
45 different states, 611 people and counting.
And counting. University of Kentucky Extension poultry expert Dr. Jackie Jacob says the cause of this problem is first that we've got
a major boom in backyard flocks.
More people wanting to have flocks of 2 to 10 chickens in their backyards for fresh eggs.
And a lot of them don't have any livestock background.
And they don't know that most birds have salmonella in their systems. You can't avoid it. And in many homes where there's just 2 or 3 chickens,
a lot of times they become pets.
Kids and others have close contact with them. Dr. Jacob says probably not a good idea.
So if you handle your birds, wash your hands afterwards. Don't let, small kids that are still sucking thumbs and rubbing eyes and all that kind of thing handle birds by themselves.
She says don't let those birds in the house at all. That's just asking for problems. In Washington, Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
It seems we really can't escape coverage of the U.S. election these days, and a big question, especially for our U.S. listeners, is how much do the leading candidates know or even understand about agriculture? And here's an interesting commentary on that from Stuart Trolson of the U.S. Farm Bureau.
What do the 2016 presidential candidates know about agriculture? Democrat Hillary Clinton attended school in Park Ridge, Illinois, where the general headquarters of the American Farm Bureau Federation once was located. Chances are she wasn't aware of Farm Bureau or farm issues as a young person. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump feels at home in Manhattan, where he negotiated real estate deals. That's the borough of New York City, not Manhattan, Kansas. He was criticized by a primary opponent for having New York values. Well, New York State has thousands of farms producing a wide variety of agricultural products on about a quarter of the state's land. So the value of agriculture must not be overlooked in the Empire State. Perhaps the most we can hope for is that the presidential candidates are willing to listen to farmers and ranchers and realize that the federal government doesn't have all the answers. President Eisenhower said it best. The proper role of government, however, is that of partner with the farmer, never his master. If this year's candidates know little else about American agriculture, they should learn that much.
New York State conservation officers are trying to trap a bear that attacked a steer on a southeastern Adirondack farm. Organic beef farmer Wayne Smith says he believes the attack happened over the weekend, leaving one of his cattle with leg cuts, and the steer is expected to recover. The Department of Environmental Conservation confirmed the injuries appeared to be from a bear attack at Smith's Warren County farm. Smith believes the bear is the same one that's been raiding bird feeders and garbage cans in the area for the last couple of years. An organic farm is seeking $210,000 from a neighboring dairy after cows escaped, and a lawsuit filed by Symington Gardens claims they had to throw out contaminated winter squash and leafy greens and shut down the field for 4 months because of the cows from Rock Ridge Farms. Both farms are located in Aurora, Oregon, just south of Portland. According to court documents, cows from Rock Ridge escaped their gated enclosure in April 2014. After several hours, they were wrangled back to the dairy, but Symington Gardens says the damage was already done. Officials with Rock Ridge Farm declined comment, but they said they work hard to try and be good neighbors. The British Columbia Cattlemen's Association is funding a study to determine if a beef processing plant is feasible. The proposed beef processing plant in Prince George could help BC agriculture and provide more profits for ranchers. A federally inspected plant could create 180 direct new jobs. The majority of beef cattle in BC are, of course, sent to Alberta for fattening, processing, and production, and that study is expected to be complete by March 2017. And as of January the 1st, the province of Manitoba's beef cow population was 440,000, and Agriculture Minister Ralph Eichler says the province can and should dramatically increase its cow herd. He says 750,000 or more would be a good target. Including dairy cows, Manitoba has 485,000 cows as of the 1st of January this year. The province's beef herd has declined steadily in the last 10 years, and the trend has continued in recent years despite strong cattle prices. Seeing those annoying TV commercials for a well-known fast food outlet where the little guy in the black shirt sanctimoniously tells very naive city folks how their beef is raised with no added hormones or antibiotics, and on and on and on. Well, Dr. Matt May with Feedlot Health Management Services in Okotoks, Alberta says a study he conducted a couple of years ago shows animal and human health, food safety, and quality standards are not compromised in conventional beef production. Any differences between animals raised with the proper rates of feed additives and growth implants would be negligible to consumers. However, the big difference, he says, is in the improved performance of conventional beef over natural and organic systems. His study with nearly 1,000 steers showed about 100-pound per head higher carcass weight among conventional steers, and similar with about 1,000 heifers, about 65 pounds of improved gain per head. Dr. May says it's important the beef industry gets its story out to consumers, demonstrating that conventional beef is produced with healthy, safe, sustainable production practices. There is a small but vocal element critical of the conventional beef production system, and it would be a significant cost to the industry and ultimately have an adverse effect on society if very efficient beef production technologies were lost. Wednesday, September 7th, is the Dream Makers Angus sale at the Innisfail Auction Market, a complete dispersal sale of red and black Angus cow-calf pairs, bred cows, and heifers. And, of course, they have regular cattle sales every Wednesday and 2-horse sales a month. You can see more at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. Oh, yeah, and the August issue of Alberta Beef Magazine focuses on women in agriculture, and it's a great read. The cover has front cover story features Paige Stewart, and there's an inside story on Temple Grandin, and obviously some other great stories. You can subscribe online at albertabeef.ca, and that's where you can also see the complete digital editions of past issues. That's kind of neat how that works. And that takes us down to the final item. Now, I wonder, have you tried using that Siri app on your smartphone? That's pretty neat how this works. I can say Toronto Blue Jays starting lineup, and this charming female voice reads it right back to me. I can say Calgary Stampede Saddle Bronc winner, and she comes back with Zeke Thurston. But the other day I was in town, and some of you may know now that my wife Billy's middle name is Ann, and her folks used to call her Billy Ann, but she prefers just Billy. Anyhow, I brought up Siri on the phone and I said, "Please call my wife." And the Siri voice came back with, "Billy Ann is not in your contacts." I said, "Billy McLennan is my wife." She came back and said, "I have added Billy Ann as your wife." So then again I said, "Call my wife." And the Siri voice came back and said, "Which wife?" Technology, and that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Horse Training File, how important is it to warm your horse up before you start working him? A song from Don Edwards, and more from Steve Roberts when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. I'll discuss the importance of warming up your horse and the consequences of not bothering to do it on the Horse Training File coming right up. And we have more from working cowboy Steve Roberts, but first, hey, have you ever wanted to see the spectacular Vancouver Harbor from the deck of a cruise ship, or better yet, from your own private stateroom balcony? Or how about the famous Inside Passage, the Alaskan ports of Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, spectacular Glacier Bay, Denali National Park, or North America's highest peak, Mount McKinley, from the McKinley Railroad? And Anchorage, well, that's all on the agenda for our next Spirit of the West cruise next June the 18th to the 28th. And our allotment of staterooms is really filling fast. You couldn't find a better bunch of folks to travel with. Get all the information on the cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com, or just call Jim, Karen, or Megan at 1-800-530-0131. Now, the Horse Training File, a question from a listener. How important is the warm-up? You know, some of the old cowboys I've ridden with really do get away with stuff I really don't recommend. We have loaded the horses in a trailer, 3 or 4 of them saddled but not tied, just thrown in there loose, jostling for position, and we bounced up a logging road when somebody spots the cows, so the truck is stopped, and I've seen guys unload their horses, jump into the saddle, and spur into a lope before the cows get away. And that has caused an early morning bronc ride or two, but most of these guys, it seems, would rather ride out the storm than do a slow warm-up. I've found, however, that our horses seem to do a lot better if I give them a chance to get their muscles warmed up and their joints loosened up. Now, if it's mostly corral or arena work I'm going to do, I'll trot circles for about 10 minutes until the horse starts to blow his nose, and that's a great sound indicating that his systems are warming up and he's releasing any tension he might be carrying. Next, I'll ease into a lope and keep it up for at least 10 minutes until the horse really finds the rhythm and he's reaching out comfortably on a nice loose rein. After about 10 minutes, his breathing will be rhythmic and he might even break a little sweat. But he's in that active sweet spot, finding comfort in forward motion, and by now his systems are all warmed up and he's ready to go to work. On the other hand, if I'm heading up to the range to check or move cattle, I usually don't do any groundwork before I get on, only because our ranch horses get ridden several hours almost every day or every other day in the grazing season, and I can tell by the time I get one saddled that he's usually pretty much ready to get on and go. I'll do a little bit of lateral and vertical flexing, move the hindquarters in each direction, move the shoulders in each direction, and then walk off up the trail. And after a few minutes, I'll ask him to trot, and we'll trot for a mile or two and then lope for another mile and then trot to where we find the cattle. Knowing now that he's basically really fit, I find that he'll be really ready to go to work with his mind on the job by then. So, yeah, I like to do a nice warm-up. I think it's easier on the horses and in some cases safer too. Our hard-working horses really thrive on that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration, and you can find out more about it at hoffmanshorseration.com. And that's the Horse Training File. Join us Labor Day weekend for the 67th Annual North Thompson Fall Fair and Rodeo in Barrier, BC, September 3rd to 5th. The Laughing Logger Lumberjack Show, Chainsaw Carving Competition, the BCRA Rodeo, Pony Chariot and Chuckwagon Racing and Entertainment Stage, and livestock competitions, outdoor and indoor entertainment, and so much more. Be sure and join us for the Cowboy Concert Sunday evening, and you can get all the details at fallfair-rodeo.com. We started things out today with the Red Hot Rhythm Wranglers and their hit song written by Marvin Odell, Don Edwards for President, and then we promised a song from Don Edwards written by Ian Tyson, and here it is, the story of Will James.
When I was but a small boy, Father bought me many books about the creatures of the river banks and the sins of old sea cooks. But the ones I never left behind with those long forgotten games were the tales of wild and windy slopes by the man they called Will James. The living of his cowboy dreams, or so it seemed to me, the perfect combination, riding high and living free. His heroes were his horses, and he drew them clear and true, and on every page they'd come alive and they'd jump straight out at you. His race toward the sunset was the high and lonesome kind, like the coyote always looking back, he left no tracks behind. So I've memorized those pictures, boys, they're still the very best. If whiskey was his mistress, then his true love was the West. I remember up on Dead Man's Creek back 30 years or more, I hired out the breaking colts, which I'd never done before. A city kid, I asked myself now, what would Will James do? And you know it was the damnedest thing but it kinda got me through. His race toward the sunset was the high and lonesome kind, like the coyote always looking back, he left no tracks behind. I've memorized those pictures, boys, they're still the very best. If whiskey was his mistress, then his true love was the West. And his race toward the sunset was the high and lonesome kind, like the coyote always looking back, he left no tracks behind. So I've memorized those pictures, boys, they're still the very best. If whiskey was his mistress, then his true love was the West. If whiskey was his mistress, then his true love was the West.
And now it's back to working cowboy Steve Roberts.
Have you ridden, cowboyed in other areas besides the Nicola Valley and Williams Lake? You haven't done any work in Alberta? Or?
Not in Alberta, no. I've been, the Bobtail Ranch in Penticton for a while, and a lot of ranches in the Nicola Valley and now in the Williams Lake area. Is as far as I've been. I'd like to do more, but I don't think a guy has enough time to get everywhere now.
What's your favorite area to ride in of the places you've been?
Oh, definitely the Nicola Valley, Douglas Lake Cattle Company. That's nice riding there, nice country.
Did you work for them for a while?
Yeah, for a while, just about a year, I think.
Oh yeah,
for a full season.
And things are done pretty much in the big outfit traditions there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Not much goes wrong there. So branding's pretty slick. Everybody knows what to do. I guess after you do that many in the spring, you should
better
know.
be good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing, when it comes to whatever you got to do with cattle. When you've gone through as many thousands and thousands of calves, and every calving situation you're ever going to see, just about, it really does give a guy a good background, I think.
Yeah, like especially calving the heifers there. Like you calve more heifers than some people do in a lifetime, all in one season and all in 1 month. So you learn a lot. That's probably the most I ever learned on a calving season in 1 month there, just being in the calving barn on the heifers. I think they had 1,400 head that spring I was there.
Wow. There's a lot of kind of real cowboy and legends in the Nicola Valley and the Caribou country, and I would imagine you probably had the chance to ride with some of these old top hands that have been able to help you. Can you think of 2 or 3 guys that you can really, look up to and say, hey, these guys were real cowmen or real cowboys or real hands?
Yeah, the one that stands out the most would be Rip Gray. He kind of, I'd say almost half raised me, I guess, since I worked for him in the summer. He taught me a lot, and that's one that he got me going and really respect. And then, it's nice, like, to be able to ride with guys like Mike Ferguson and that. And those are like when you get to ride next to, when you're a kid, those were your heroes, and now you're working with them. It's kind of a nice thing.
Coming up next, it's our classic Song of the West segment with another long-lost musical treasure, and then a poem from the pen of Jesse Colt, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Got another long-lost Western classic song for this segment, written by Toby Prynne. He was a piano player, organist, radio and TV entertainer born in Michigan in 1906, moved to Virginia, Minnesota, and led a few orchestras and did quite a bit of music work. And then he had his own television show, and he was a real favorite with the audience, a jovial, larger-than-life personality weighing in at over 300 pounds, and he was a workaholic. Toby Prynne died of complications of diabetes in 1965, and his son Tom Prynne has written extensively about him. Now, Toby Prynne is credited with writing the words and music for this song that was seldom heard until Patsy Montana recorded it. And that's where Stu Stewart of the Prairie Rose Wranglers found it, worked out this beautiful arrangement of Blanket Me with Western Skies.
Day is ending, work's all through, so blanket me with western skies of blue. Evening shadows bring thoughts of you, blanket me with western skies of blue. After riding in the saddle, bringing on the strays to stay, now we're resting, oh paint nigh, resting for another day. Moon suspended, stars peeking through, blanket me with western skies of blue. Blanket me with western skies of blue. Evening shadows bring thoughts of you, blanket me with western skies of blue. After riding in the saddle, bringing home the strays to stay, now we're resting, oh paint nigh, resting for another day. Moon suspended, stars peeking through, blanket me with western skies of blue. Blanket me with western skies of blue.
Well, this piece of cowboy poetry was written by fine poet Jesse Colt, and it's on my Cowboys Reflection album called Outlaw and the City Girl. Well, old Dudley almost put him down when he watched him standing there, for that outlaw was a scrawny colt, just legs and mane and hair. Some women take to fragile things. My wife's one, I should tell. She pleaded, "Dan, let's take him home and I'll nurse him till he's well." Well, my wife came from the city. I couldn't make her understand that a working ranch needs healthy foals because we've got to live off of this land. I tried to make her give him up, tried hard to make her see. I guess I might beat a fighting man, but she won out over me. She begged a small space for him between the chickens and old Gray, stole rations from our squealing hogs, and then she swept that loft for hay. An orphan colt without a maw will tag on anyone, and soon she became his mama, and he became her son. It made old Josie chuckle the way he followed her around and then would watch our lane with baleful eyes each time she left for town. But our year was going poorly, and I wondered for a while if I'd made a mistake when I wed this city child. And soon that colt became a symbol of all things wrong in our life, and I began to scorn the foal and then to blame my city wife. Still, she found a worn-out saddle and taught herself to ride, and the outlaw, well, he bore her proudly upon his scrawny hide. I remember how that snow swept in, how the wind roared across the plain till all our roads were blocked and cold and we couldn't even find our lane. Was that same day in our woodlot when I went to fall that tree and I couldn't get through that heavy snow and the damn thing fell on me. And first Becky tried to move it, and then she tried to pull me clear. And I just moaned, "You've got to ride for help, 'cause I'm dying under here." Becky heaped those blankets around me and then turned to that snowy sky. And she threw her arms around my neck and pleaded, "Dan, don't die." And she turned and raced down to the barn and then came back one last time, and I swear I nearly died right there, for she had that outlaw on her line. I begged her take the Pilgrim, ride mow or scold or ski, and she said, "Dan, please trust the outlaw. He'll give his all for me." And she climbed into that battered saddle, where I watched them for a time. A city girl, a scrawny colt, and my life on the line. They say that when you're dying, your life will flash before again, and in truth I saw a vision beyond all the cold and pain. Then I saw how I'd hurt Becky, and I knew her pain was real, and I prayed, "Lord, grant me one more minute to tell her how I really feel." Well, my whole life passed before me as I lay pinned underneath that tree, and then there came a second vision, for I could plainly see. I saw two snowy shadows out there fighting through that storm, my city girl and that scrawny colt that I'd heaped with scorn. It seemed he hardly broke his stride, just plunged on through that snow, while the wind howled in from the north and it dropped to 28 below. Well, he stumbled and he faltered, but that valiant heart was game, and he'd plunged through one more drift, each time Becky called his name. Brandon heard the cutters coming, and then he barked me back to life and 4 strong men with Jackson saws, and 1 frozen, frightened wife. The vet said he'd tried to save him, but he'd put sounder horses down. He took one look into Becky's eyes and just shrugged and turned around. It was Becky that nursed him back to health and then proudly led him home, just like a conquering hero, to that fine box stall all his own. You see, sometimes it takes a real good scare to make a damn fool see how much a girl like Becky could change a man like me. And I've learned never to judge a foal that's had a shaky start. Sometimes the frailest frame can hold the halest heart. Thank you so much for making the ride. I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. And thanks again to our great support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. See them at meadowsprings.com. And be sure to look for the latest issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. You can subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com. We're almost out of time, so till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.